But 20 years in the Legion will make a boy a man. 20 years in the Legion and they will give you land. 20 years in the Legion, you'll always have a home. 20 years in the legions of Rome.
Legions of Rome. There I am. I was wondering where I was. All right. So, hi guys. Welcome to How Shit Works, the show where we look behind the curtain of how things run in the kingdom of Meridies. I am one of your hosts, Graf Ulrich von Brandenburg. I'm a knight, a pelican, and a royal peer. I have opinions. As always, I am joined by my co-host, the Knight of Kittens himself, the bringer of joy, Sir Erik Marta. Oh, crap. So something's going on, and Erik can't be here tonight. So I'm just going to have to move on without him. So hope everything's okay with Erik. I know he had a little bit of life going on, getting ready for MGT. Hope to see everyone next weekend at MGT. So tonight is the 6th episode of our 7th series. This week we're covering Your First War, where we'll actually cover the process from, are these events are there events that last longer than a weekend, to holy crap, Penzic is 2 weeks. And we'll do this all with tonight's special guest, one half of Meridian Mayhem herself, Dame Elizabeth of Ray Finn.
Hi. You think you were going to surprise me with that mask, huh?
I thought a little bit I was going to surprise you with the mask, and she got it for me.
Not even. Look,
not even. All right, this thing's
anyway,
hot, so I'm taking it off. All right, so tell us a little bit about. Sorry, say hi and introduce yourself, Elizabeth. Say whatever you want.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. Do you want me to tell you about myself? Look, I got a copy of the script too. It's good. I'm gonna be the co-host. Hi, Elizabeth. Tell us about yourself. How'd you get started in the SCA? Well, thanks for asking. I got dragged into the SCA as a small child. My parents saw an ad for the Lake Lanier Islands Medieval Fair, and we went out and saw it, and it was a demo. It's actually a water park now, but they used to do a medieval fair every year there for the public in Atlanta. And we saw, I think it was mostly just fighting. That's really all I remember. We're going to get a whole lot of these early, but like, that's all I remember because I was 5. But my parents thought it was really awesome, and we started doing it, and that was 41 years ago.
Seems like just yesterday.
Sometimes
it seems like 41 years ago.
Sometimes it feels like 100.
So really, the SCA has really been around all your life.
Functionally, yeah. I mean, when people are like, oh, I don't know who I would be without the SCA. I mean, I literally don't know who I would be as a person. Right. Some of the people that I've known for that whole time. The first person that I remember seeing at that demo was Duchan the Mad Celt. And of course, so that means that the demo was very exciting because he was, he was on and he was performing for the crowd. And I just thought he was the coolest thing I had ever seen.
Mad Celt's pretty fucking cool.
I mean, you are not wrong. You are not wrong. Right.
So I've got a few standard bits that we have to go through on the show to get going. So give me just a second and we'll get back to all the questions. All right. So welcome to the show, everyone. As always, thanks for joining us, Elizabeth. For those of you who this happens to be your first show, I'm welcome. So we have a drinking game on the show, and every time we say one of these words or do one of these actions, we take a drink. I will be drinking tonight out of my wonderful Please Touch pottery mug. I'll be drinking a White Russian tonight. Now, if you don't want to drink, you don't have to drink. This is completely opt-in. If you don't want to drink alcohol, don't drink alcohol. Drink something else. Completely opt-in. It's on you. As always, we'd like to thank Between Two Peers for allowing us to be a licensed franchisee of their drinking game. So the words. Dame Elizabeth really, she chose Laylee. Really, you chose Laylee because you hate my liver. So that's twice. Laylee.
Thrice named and then summoned.
I'm so happy.
Bitches, are there donuts?
All right, you didn't get me on the math, but you got me on the Laylee. I'm so happy.
By the way, our second word for tonight is hospitality, and that's brought to you by Laylee.
Yes.
All right. The last thing that we drink on is
sorry.
The last thing we drink on is anytime we announce we're going to go off script. Normally we would say, "Sorry, Jess, I'm going off script here," but Jess also isn't with us tonight. So the lovely Graf and Katarina is running the show. She is controlling the horizontal and the vertical tonight. Just a quick note: normally we have a specific way we do our questions through the comments, but this time we're going to try and catch them as they come. So ask your questions as the show goes along, and we'll try and pull them into the conversation. Okay? All right. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Laylee.
Are we going to keep that word?
Yes. I made a second drink.
Because we might die.
I'm gonna
Whatever, you're fine.
I'm gonna ask that we perhaps choose a different word, because every time I have to call on my co-host, I have to drink. I don't have that much alcohol in the house, and I have a lot of alcohol in the house. All right, I may have to just walk away and make a drink thing, because my normal drink maker is running the show.
Again, it's not like this is a surprise to you.
All right. So from henceforth, my squire will be named Erik for the rest of the night.
No, she will not. No, she will not.
She could be.
She could be. Let's call her Mayhem. I like that better.
All right, Erik, you're up.
All right. Well, since Elizabeth already answered the first question of her origin story, I think that means it's Ulrich's turn.
All right.
She's not actually on your team.
I know. She's a little bit on my team. There's a contractual requirement to be on my team in some way, shape, or form.
I mean, whatever. Yeah, but she picked me.
Wait, I picked him too?
Yeah, but there's a contract involved.
So we know you love a good war. Outside of wars, going to the wars, what's your hook in the SCA? What else is your big love? What keeps you coming around, other than it's literally been around all your life?
Hospitality.
Really?
I mean, know your audience. No, I do. I like to make people feel welcome. New people, new to me people, new old people, like whatever. It doesn't matter. I really enjoy seeing other people's perspectives on things. Getting to know new folks. So interkingdom anthropology, which is actually a thing. Getting to know different people from other places and finding out how they do stuff. It keeps you from taking things for granted. Keeps things from getting stale.
Cool. And to go off script early, Laylee, when did you first find the SCA?
There was a boy or two involved. A boyfriend a million years ago took me to a fighter practice in the park in Murfreesboro, and Jarl Alenon promptly beat him down. And then a few years later, was dating that guy's best friend, whom I eventually married and divorced and whatever. So Erik and I got involved in the SCA, and yeah, so I've been around for about 20 years now.
All right. And other than wars, which we know you love, what keeps you coming back?
I mean, I love a lot of aspects of the SCA. I love to fight. I love the costuming. I love the brewing. I love pretty much just all of the cool things that you can do within the greater, kind of umbrella of the SCA. But really, I think for most of us, what really keeps me is the people.
Like you two, you're awesome. So it's certainly two of the things to keep
me
in.
And fun. I like fun.
Fun don't suck.
Not if done right. All right. Wait, it's Erik's turn to ask a question.
It is. Okay, Elizabeth, who was your biggest influence in your early SCA years? I feel like this is a cheater question.
Yeah, I mean, and it's pretty much a gimme. Yeah, my parents. Go figure.
So outside of family.
Yeah. Well, you think I didn't have a second part to the answer? Anywho. Well, and I've already mentioned that the first SCA person that I ever saw was John the Mad Kelp. And I proceeded to think that he was super awesome for, 41 plus years after that. But we were in Southdown, so he was actually in the local group. And my mom was protege to Duchess Rondelin, who at the time was his wife. So, we spent a lot of time around them, and just thought he was the coolest. And trying to think, as a child, I would think that Edward Glassenberg was the other person that I really looked up to. He's, again, larger than life. It's very hard to ignore. When you're a little kid, you look at the bright and shiny things and the people who are doing all the exciting things. And he was definitely just so much fun and so kind. And I mean, again, like even up till now, he actually, well, I'm going to tell the world, I guess, but he actually asked if he could pay for all of my son's books in college. And every semester he would pay for Patrick's books just because he wanted to do something nice. And I just think that's, like what kind of hobby could you get where 40 years after you met somebody, you're still interacting with them in meaningful ways? Even though, I haven't seen anybody in forever, but
Right.
It's the ties that bind,
No, that's great. And if you get a chance to sit down and talk with any of these guys, any of these folks, they all have great stories.
They do. And just so many, not even just no shit there I was, but just things that you're like, oh, well, that's where that joke came from. Okay. Right. All right. Good to know. Or like, why do we have sumptuary laws? Because they thought it would be funny if you violated them all the time and had to pay a fee. Like just all sorts of things.
No, that's solid. I can see where some of those influences rubbed off on you in a good way. Can see where some of the shenanigans side of those folks also rubbed off on you. So,
could be worse.
All right. So, do you have an SCA hero? Who are they, and why?
Yeah, and I warned you about this one too,
right?
But obviously, and this is not just like the gimme answer, but my parents. Sure. not just because they're my parents, but objectively. And I mean, so for those of you who don't know, Earl Richard of Rayfin, my dad, passed away. It'll be 5 years ago this October. And then Countess Elowin of Eaglewood is totally still rocking along, and picking up new tricks left and right. She, on a lark, because I thought it would be funny, decided she was going to pick up rapier as a thing and dress like Puss in Boots so that she could fight at Castle Wars. I almost said last year. Functionally last year, the last time we had Castle Wars, so that she could surprise challenge Baron Wistrick. And she did. She practiced in secret for months on end, got an entire rapier kit, and made her own Puss in Boots costume to go with it, and challenged him on the field and beat him.
Sweet.
So, I mean, they're just an inspiration. They make it look easy. They make the SCA a better place. For lots of people.
So I'm going to slide in here and ask the second question straight, and then Laylee can ask the scheduled question. I'm just going to change things up a bit to make to meet one of your requests.
You should probably take a drink first, though.
I will after I ask the question. Okay. So, what is Meridian Mayhem, and where did that idea come from? And I'll let both of you answer that.
So no shit. There we
was.
So here's actually the real start of that story is my marriage was on the rocks, and I had decided that I was going to go to Penzic for the first time. And my now ex-husband kind of wanted to go, kind of didn't want to go. But I went ahead and registered him, and I was going to take him. And then we decided Splitsville. So I, on a lark, messaged Elizabeth like 2 weeks before Penzic and said, "Hey, you want to go to Penzic?" And she's like, sure. So she drove 5 hours to me, and then we drove 11 hours to Penzic, and I'll let her pick it up from there.
I mean, that's what happened. We had a fabulous time. Turns out I'm way better company. But we did. We had a lovely time. Penzic was awesome. We camped with a wonderful group of people. It was so much fun. And on the way home, we were joking about it. And we're like, yeah, we should go to all the wars. And it went from there. Because sometimes that's all it takes. Right? Because, I mean, why not? And so we looked, and at the time, and I don't know if this is still the case or not, but SCA.org had a list of all of the largest events in the SCA. And they're all wars. And we're like, hey, we should go to all of these. We decided that because Penzic was in August, that we couldn't scramble that much. So we decided that we were going to do it for AS50, which was the next year, starting in May, because the SCA New Year starts in May. That we were going to go to all of these biggest ones, plus all of our regular ones, and everything else that we could fit in. And we decided that it would be fun to document it as we went, to just kind of keep track of things, because it's hard to remember lots of details over time. And that's where we decided, well, if we're going to have a page where we keep track of everything, well, we should name it. And we're like, Meridian Mayhem, because we're Meridian. And, maybe a little bit of mayhem happens every now and again adjacent to us through no fault of our own.
Right.
So there are two parts of Meridian Mayhem, and you both have nicknames. Who's what?
Elizabeth is Malice.
And Laylee is Mayhem.
Or every once in a while it's Mischief, just for no apparent reason at all. But
You know, it's all in the intent.
yes.
And we got fake Sharpie knuckle tattoos at one point. It was great.
I know. I was looking through those pictures today, refreshing my memories. And the cool thing about deciding to do this over an SCA year instead of a calendar year was that PTO, time off with our employers, is usually based on a calendar year. So we could back end load the first part and front end load the second year and make it all work.
Yes. And still have enough time for booking flights and making plans and blah, 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 all that.
Yep.
Erik, it's your question.
Oh, how many SCA wars did Meridian Mayhem go to? I printed off the list.
I wrote it out by hand because I'm a Luddite. In the notebook that I use for all of my packing lists and things, which we'll get to later.
Nice.
Except that I just shut it. Devastating. Yeah, so, and that's in addition to whatever other regular events, like we went to other events too, I'm confident.
Yeah, we did.
But yeah, 12 specific wars plus SCA 50th year, which was technically an AS 51 for whatever reason.
Right. That's a lot. So did you ever figure out how many miles that was?
Did you print that out too?
An average of 19,150 miles traveled by each of us. Elizabeth was a little higher because she's further south, and most of the wars are more north than south.
Or west. Or not in Florida.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to cover two questions right quick. First, I'm going to cover a populist question or a live feed question from Pixie, which is, I have a question for Elizabeth. Who is her favorite protege?
Oh, no question. It's my little snickerdoodle. That would be her.
Okay.
Much like having a favorite child, I can say totally yes, because I only have one.
Right. Makes life easier.
It does. It does.
All right, I'm going to go back a little bit. So do you have a favorite event or tournament? And why is it MGT? If it's not MGT, why isn't it MGT?
Who's this question for?
You.
Oh,
both
okay.
of you if you want to, but you.
Okay, so
you're the guest.
Yeah. So it's not MGT. And you and Laylee both know why. And the funny thing is that to study up for this show, I did go back and watch Caspar's episode about going to your first MGT. And I have to say, I admire the way that you danced around the subject entirely. But I'll go ahead and tell you, I was actually the autocrat of the first Kingdom level MGT. And that's how I met Ulrich. And I hated him so much. Clearly we've gotten over it since then. But yes, it was a challenge.
I did admit to being an asshole.
You did. You were. It's cool.
He's a kinder, gentler Ulrich these days.
I love you now. I think that says a lot as to your redeemability of character. But aside from that, I have a very fraught relationship with MGT, and it's not just because of that. I don't always get to fight in it. Very often, my mom is in charge of the Chalice Luncheon, And whatever years that she is doing that, I choose to help her instead. Because it's more important to me.
Mhm.
You know, the chalice tourney is important to the fighters, obviously. And, you know, everyone pays their money, and then the person who wins, you know, gets to have all the money donated. But the chalice luncheon is the one part that the populace gets to be a part of too. You know, and that way they get to feel, even if they're not fighting, they get to feel like they participated in it. And I mean, the lunches raise, I don't know the exact numbers, but I usually wind up counting because I'm a counter and I'm good at counting. And I think that a lot of times the luncheon raises as much, if not more, than the tourney itself. So, I mean, that's a huge thing for people to be able to participate in. And it's a huge thing for the tourney itself. That being said, you know, sometimes I do get to fight in it, and it's fun and it's great. Um, it is also a difficult one. Now that the grand tourney is named after my dad, even before that, it's the event where I miss him the most. It's the one where I feel his absence more than anywhere else. And so a lot of times it's just kind of a sad day. So, I mean, that's why MGT is not my favorite.
No,
It's a complicated day. It's always a kind of a complicated day.
And I didn't know exactly how you were going to answer, but I kind of figured most of that. And I wanted to get that out there too. That's important for people to know, especially about the Chalice Luncheon. You know, that, you know, everyone always talks about how the Chalice Tourney in MGT raises all this money. It's not just that. You know, there's the luncheon. There's people last year who when MGT didn't happen, they rallied around and made that donation happen again. Lately, you know, and you were big pushers of that. So that, you know, all that counts. You know, but what is your favorite event? That was the question.
Okay, and this is kind of a cheat too, but I don't care. It's my answer. I love how Fighters Collegium used to be.
Mm-hmm.
When it was, and I understand, like the Kingdom calendar has changed over the years, and now Crown List is in November, but Fighters Collegium used to be like the last big thing of the year. And you know, it's the same concept as any Fighters Collegium. You know, you have some classes, but you can do pickups all day. You know, you get as much fighting as you possibly want to. And then hospitality, noble fellowship.
And Sir Shaltar would grill us hot dogs.
And sometimes there would be midnight meat or fried honey buns or dirty connells or whatever.
That was a drink, by the way.
Yeah, sorry.
It's fair. It's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, just it was a low stress kind of day. I mean, unless you just really wanted to get to a class on time, which I mean, like whatever. But you know, you could kind of do what you wanted, but still be a part of everything all day long. And then everybody, it just seemed like such a relaxing, fun, hanging out with everybody, bonding, do whatever kind of event. And it's not that way anymore, and I kind of miss it.
No, I'm with you. I much prefer the old version of Fighters Collegium as well, where we actually taught a class, and we were focused on learning specific skills instead of just fighting. Though you could just fight if you wanted to. There was always a section for that.
How about you, Laylee?
Well, it's funny. Fighters Collegium also is like the anniversary of our first shenanigans together. But, truthfully, Fighters Collegium used to also be one of my very favorite events. Now, you know, it's kind of hard for me to say. I've moved to the East Kingdom. I've been here for 4 years now. So there are events here that are near and dear to my heart too. Wars of the Roses here is fantastic. But the funny thing is, like, I say that Wars of the Roses here is amazing. I don't actually do a whole lot SCA at Wars of the Roses. Like, I hang out with my friends. And so I think that for me, it's like Gulf War is where all of my people kind of converge. So in a big way, that's one of my favorites.
Cool.
I've totally lost track where we are on these questions.
It's okay.
I think we may have jumped around a little bit.
We jumped around a little bit because I wanted to give you a space between a couple of those questions.
Thank you.
So tell us what an SCA war is and why do you two love them so much?
Because they're awesome. God. So are you asking about like all the wars or just the longer than a weekend ones specifically, or?
So most folks, we've done shows on what your first event's like and what you can expect at your first event. But what makes a war different than just generic event number 4 that you go to?
Well,
usually events that wars that are longer than just a weekend. So 3-day, week, 2-week wars. What all's going on there that makes them different than just I'm going to the event. I'm going to set up my tent late Friday night. I'm going to do the event on Saturday and go home on Sunday.
Well, it really gives you a chance to unpack more. Really kind of set up a camp instead of just like a temporary, okay, well, I'm just here for the weekend, whatever. And it gives you, I don't know, it's more exciting. It makes you feel more of a part of things. Attorney, obviously, well, and there are exceptions, but generally, if it's a singles tourney, you're just, you're doing your thing. But, with a war, it's more of a team thing. And that can be anywhere from, okay, well, we're just going to like call off 1s and 2s and split everybody up, to, inter-kingdom wars with formal alliances and, people negotiating who they're going to get to fight for what. And, there's a whole variety to it. But to me, it feels more real. It feels more like real medieval, more early period, like whatever. It feels like something that would be more likely to really happen. I mean, yes, obviously there were attorneys and later period stuff like that, but I mean, this, I don't know, it's always been more interesting to me, more engaging. And, a lot of times they're bigger events. So you see a lot more people. There are a lot more things to do. Even if you're not a fighter, there'll be, tons of classes or, random people wearing awesome garb that you can just be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. How did you make that? And have them tell you, or see somebody doing something that you're like, how do you do that? And they have the time to sit down and tell you. The pace is different. It's not just, okay, well, we functionally got one day to do all the things. This, like you could sleep in one day if you wanted to, and then, like go shopping, and I guess there's more merchants and stuff too. So shopping, if that's your thing, there's a lot more of that too, a lot of times. And really, as far as like the camps, I feel like you get to know people better the longer that you spend with them. And so wars, a lot of times, I get to know people better at wars than I ever would have at weekend events. And, in a lot of kingdoms, especially out west, they don't even have really weekend events. A lot of the sites that they have are just day trip sites. So wars are the only time they really get to do that, to camp together, to share meals together, to, really kind of experience.
To connect.
My favorite parts of the SDA. Sitting around a campfire.
Yeah.
Getting into trouble. Whatever.
I think too, at wars you can stretch your comfort level a little more. It's easier to do that. There's more people there that you don't know, or there's people there. A lot of times I find that at a war is where I will really actually connect and build a friendship with somebody who is in my kingdom if we're in another kingdom, because maybe that person is there and they're not somebody that I normally hang out with at a Meridian event or at an East Kingdom event, but just because we're the only Meridians there or the only Easterners there, like we gravitate together and then end up hanging out. And so it's really just kind of a totally different dynamic.
All right.
I think she also covered how does an SCA war differ from a regular weekend event within her answer. So
I think she did.
I mean,
and that happens a lot. So, do you have a favorite war? Which one is it and why?
well, that one's hard because, while it's easy for me to say I have a favorite kid or a favorite protege, there's so many different things that I love about different wars, and they each bring something unique to the table. And I tried really hard and I couldn't pick a favorite. I mean, we could elaborate if you like, because I have the list of all of the wars that we went to. So Meridian Mayhem, Laylee and I, now known as Mayhem Without Borders, because again, we're not all Meridian anymore. It's literally still just us. When we went on this known world tour, it was a lot. And how many different kingdoms did we go to? Did you print that out?
12, I think. Well, no, 10.
12 wars.
10 kingdoms.
10
12
kingdoms.
States.
I mean, but we started out with border raids. Don't really feel the need to address that one because it's gone.
Rest in peace.
I will say that the last one that I went to was the least suckiest one ever, much as we told the person who was in charge of the fighting, because that's the year that they broke us up and mixed us up together. And so it wasn't just Meridians versus Midrealm.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to fight with all new people. And the battle scenarios were really cool. And it was really interesting. And it was done, it was a Hastings one. Yeah. Where it had all the different, it was like a stage battle. It was really cool. Historically, it was really interesting to get to have like a whole different dynamic than border raids used to have. So that was neat. But again, RIP. We went to Lily's War. Lily's is awesome because it's Laylee.
And there's a boat.
Yeah, I had to finish my drink first. And a Feardraka, which is really something you're not going to get anywhere else. You can row on a Viking ship, like out into the lake. Sometimes
also,
multiple times.
It's Callantir, and Callantir is well known across the known world for their hospitality. Yes, they are wonderful people. They are very gracious. Also, there's fireworks, which is awesome. That being said, it's Satan's asshole hot usually. It's the worst.
That's sometimes kind of hard to get past. But I mean, you do what you can. And there's
I hear the last one was lovely. It never got above 90.
Enough to curdle your milk.
There was that one that I was really glad Elizabeth didn't go to because we spent the entire war in the lake. Literally, everybody was in the lake the entire war.
Yeah. I am heat intolerant, as it turns out.
Yeah.
I don't play
so,
that.
Laylee, What's your favorite? I assume it's Lily since they named it after you.
I mean, I'm really with Elizabeth here. Like, it's hard. I'm like, so I will tell. This one is easy. The one that impressed us the most
I was
for
getting to that on my list before I got interrupted.
for our world tour. Yeah.
We have a list down further to get to.
Oh, we do. We have a whole list too. But
I'm cutting across
Shit,
that
y'all.
list and coming back up.
Battlemore.
Battlemore was awesome.
Because the Outlands is made of fun.
And hospitality.
And hospitality. Even though, true story, Elizabeth didn't really get to leave camp much at Battlemore because she had gotten injured at Penzic. Our then prince smashed her ankle.
Telling me downhill and gravity is a thing.
Yeah, so she didn't get to fight at all, but yeah, still it was the best.
Yeah. Well, and we had no expectation. I mean, we were like, okay, well, we'll go to this because it's on the list, but we don't really know anybody and we don't know anybody to camp with. And so Laylee posted it on Facebook and was like, hey, do any of my friends know anybody that we could camp with? And sure enough,
Yes.
Elf Fu came through and was like, oh my gosh, yes, I know this amazing person. Next thing you know, we're put in touch with just this absolutely stellar human being and their whole camp. And we got, I mean, basically catered to in every possible way. I am cutting ahead because I know you have a question later about going to events far away, but
It's fine, really.
we didn't have to want for anything. They had a meal plan.
We were welcomed as family by this entire camp of people we had never met, had never even
strangers
to.
And including our host, Duchess Madigan.
Yes.
Who we didn't know from anybody, and she brought quilts that her father made that we slept under. I mean, that's some next level hospitality there.
Next level.
That's some pretty cool shit.
And they were loads of fun too.
So that's how I'm going to duck that question.
All right. So before Erik gets to her next question, from once again from Pixie, what's your favorite mayhem story that's safe to tell the populace? Now, if there's not one that's safe to tell the populace, or you want them to attend the after show, we can just send them to the after show and we'll talk about it there.
I'm gonna go with the after show is probably a better bet because I don't think my mom will watch that. And if you're watching this now, Mom, just turn it off. It'll be
all right. So join us in the Zoom, the after show. Where Meridian Mayhem will answer that question for Pixie.
I gotta think about it. Okay, so Elizabeth, what was your first war? Do you remember? Do you have a story from it?
My first war was Penzic, actually, and I don't remember a whole lot about it because I was 7. And I tried really hard to find a picture from that one, and I couldn't. But I did find one. We went again. I'm not sure if it was the very next year or the year after that. But I submitted a family photo of us.
There it is.
And that is me. I'm the taller of the 2 children. Please, everyone, I would really like some props on that. I used to not be the shortest 5'2" person ever. But yeah, that was. I remember where we camped. Which was at the bottom of Runestone Hill, right by the tree line, because you'll see those trees. I remember we had a solar shower, and it was horrible. I was devastated by that because it was not very warm. And I remember the merchants were all in the barn at the time. And that was pretty much like mind blowing. I think that we went to Great Court because I remember being utterly traumatized by that. Great Court, for y'all that don't know, is something that they don't even do anymore at Pensick. It sucks so bad. All the kingdoms, did their big fancy thing. I think they each got like one piece of business or two. I don't know. But it was always like a big involved, like an elevation of some sort, and all the pomp and all the circumstance, and it would last a million years at least. And if you're 7, that's just like the worst thing ever. Turns out if you're 46, it's also still the worst thing ever. But yeah, they don't do that anymore. And I remember the fighting. I don't know how many battles they had then. All I remember is the field battle, and it was easily like the most people I'd ever seen fighting ever. And it was just like, but that's pretty much all I remember from it. I did have a picture of my sister at the field battle. I don't know if you're going to show that or not. Yay, that's my baby sister and Mistress Dominica. But behind them, that's how big the field battle used to be at Pensick. Maybe there's a little bit more. I don't know, but that's what's in the photo, so that's what you get. So yeah. That's pretty much what I remember. I mean, that's before any of these other wars were a thing. So it was easy. I got to pass on that.
Yeah,
do you have a first war?
So yeah, my first war, which I remember being actually kind of really a big thing when Erik and I decided to go to start going to border raids. Which at the time, border raids was a pretty big war. This was, many, many years ago. And probably 2004, maybe something like that. Yeah. And it was a great time. I don't remember. I think I wasn't fighting the first one that we went to, but I think I was by the second one that we went to. But I remember the fighting was I was a little intimidated, but it was way more fun than I expected it to be. It was really great because we got to see a lot of our people, or even a lot of our local people from Rising Stone went there that didn't necessarily go to other events. So there was a lot of great people there. At the time, border raids also had kind of a rather adult-themed nightlife. So you never really knew what you were going to be walking into. So that was always interesting.
Something hospitality.
Something hospitality. So I missed this one earlier. Baron Ukla asks, what's a dirty Connell?
It's the same. It's completely different from a dirty Ulrich, and also completely different from a dirty Jan.
Yeah. It's all in the layering.
Yeah.
I don't think that answers their question.
That was a fighter.
That's going to have to, because I don't remember what actually was in it.
Speaking of which, that was at a Fighters Collegium, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yep. It was.
There was a bar. Some of the knights were running a bar, and Pamela and Elizabeth got behind the bar, and there were many drinks.
Well, they were test tube shots.
Sorry, Thora.
Understood.
I feel like there was some Baileys involved.
There was.
And some other things.
Maybe whiskey?
Sure. I have no idea. It was something.
I don't know.
Sure, why not?
Something. But they were all the same combination of things, just stacked differently. And people it was like fruit stripe gum. It was amazing. They were just like, what? And you're like, yeah, no, this is totally different. Because, hours of convincing.
Also, after 2 or 3 of them, nobody really.
Pretty much if the two of you are handing out booze, people are just going to drink it. Because we trust you both for some weird reason.
And we very rarely use that totally.
We are very trustworthy.
Except for that one time at Cadillac.
Oh. I mean,
Okay,
occasionally,
here you go. Here's your Meridian Mayhem story that's saved for
yeah.
my mom. So Gataloff was on Halloween-ish.
Yeah.
It was Halloween adjacent.
I think
We're
it
And
going on
was
so
school.
Halloween.
was it actual Halloween? Whatever.
Yeah.
And we decided that we were going to do reverse trick or treating, which involved having 3 bottles of stuff, and going up to people and asking them 1, 2, or 3, and then they would pick one, and we would give it to them, and they had to do a shot, and
It was
then we would
Pumpkin King. Was that whiskey?
pumpkin liqueur, yo.
Pumpkin King liqueur, mystery booze from Elizabeth's bar that was not labeled, that we had no idea what was.
It was
And
leftover royal gift
and
of some sort.
chicken
Unlabeled.
cock root beer bourbon, which we affectionately called cock.
Because it's funnier that way.
So these
So-
were your 3 choices.
But then it, like, if say you picked one and then you did your shot and you're like, ha ha ha, okay, now 2 or 3. And so really what happened was everybody got all 3 shots. They just didn't know it when they started.
Well, now you have to try this one. But now you have to try this one.
So there you go, reverse trick or treating.
Yep.
And this is why I don't know why we trust you guys.
Like I said, the thing that I didn't even know what it was, that was probably the kicker.
Yeah, royal gifts can be sketchy to begin with, and sketchy royal gift good booze. Could
I
be
mean,
great.
it had some
Could be
kind of,
horrible.
like, it vaguely kind of tasted like Krupnik, I think, maybe. Like, it had some very allspicy notes. I don't know. I don't remember. It's gone now.
Some kind of cordial.
All right, so let's pretend for a second that I'm a newcomer. If you were going to try and convince me to go to an SCA war, which one should be my first one and why?
Well, your original question specified if you were Meridian.
Right.
Right.
This is about how shit works in Meridians, theoretically speaking. Even if we do have my favorite East Kingdom Squire on here.
I'm pretty sure he didn't say it. But anyway, I would say, and have said 1,000 million times, that the easy, quick answer is Fool's War. Yay. That being said, caveat, Fool's War is my group's event. So it is a weekend. Well, it's a little bit longer than a weekend, but it's close. And they do have like a wide variety of different things to do. You know, obviously there's the war part. You know, they have equestrian, they have live weapons, there's you know, all sorts of there's a little bit of everything there. And it's not a big commitment. Obviously, probably the answer you're looking for is Gulf Wars. That would probably be like step 2. You know, once you've kind of gotten your feet wet. I mean, that being said, I know people who Gulf Wars was their first event. I know people who Pennsic was their first event. I mean, that can be a lot. Especially if you're not accustomed to camping at all, too. Because, you know, you want to be able to, like, try out your stuff and see how it does. Make some adjustments before you commit to an entire week of living in a nylon tent that leaks, for example. So, yeah. So, or Castle Wars. So Fool's War, obviously, I'm a little biased, but Castle Wars is like the equivalent in November now. I mean, it's always been November, but whatever. So the weather is a little cooler usually. So like cool weather camping versus springtime camping, because Fool's War obviously is in April. That's where it gets the name from. But other than that, you know, Panhandle's great. It's a bit of a drive for a lot of the kingdom. But Gulf Wars is really good. And that's where you're going to get the big war experience.
Right.
Now, that being said, everybody should go to Pennsic at least once. See if they like it or not. Maybe not day trip it.
It was the only way that I thought I was ever going to get to go. I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life in education, which is not conducive to going to Pennsic.
That's true. I mean, I wasn't judging you for it. I was just saying that's
There's
hard.
a little judgy.
That's rough, buddy.
A little.
I mean, I can't help
No,
it.
Gulf Wars was my first event, so I'm completely down with it. Gulf Wash, actually, Gulf Wash '99, the year that they actually canceled the war a half an hour before we got on site.
Nice.
So
that's fine.
we still
And you
stayed
still
there.
came back, so there must be something to it.
Almost 22 years later, here I am. So someone's to blame for that.
Very good. All right. Erik asks, what to take to a war? We know that's a wide open question. Is there a list of things that work for every war? How does that change by war? That's a lot of question.
It is a lot of question.
Are you ready for this?
We're ready.
I got you.
Come with it.
Boils down to this. I'm going to gesture a lot. You need to have somewhere to sleep, something to eat, something to wear, and something to do. Now, I mean, it goes wildly, out of control from there. But those are the basic things you have to have. Whether you're staying with someone in a tent, whether you're bringing your own tent, you're staying outside at a hotel, like whatever. You have to have somewhere to sleep. Preferably, like a bed. Don't forget your pillow. Like for real, y'all. Real talk. If I forget something, 9 times out of 10, it's a damn pillow. Don't forget your pillow. Makes you
Pillows
sad.
and towels. That's what people forget.
Pillows and towels. There you go. Something to eat. Either, your camp may have a meal plan. They may have a plan for dinner. There may be food merchants that you could buy food from. You could eat MREs all week. Don't do that, but you could.
You could survive on gas station trail mix for 4 days.
Don't do that.
Gas station trail mix and booze. You could rely on other people to feed you as you look sad. I mean, but
don't do that.
Don't do that either.
Have a plan.
Have a plan.
You can get by with that for if you plan poorly, getting by with that for one meal is okay. But if you're always the dude, the people that are just hanging around at the edge of camp going, hey, is there food?
Yeah, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
Well, and we're going to stick a pin in that and come back to it. Something to wear. You need to have garb. Some people will bring 2 outfits a day for the whole thing. Some people will wear the same nasty thing all week. Don't do that either. Some people, you can. Points to Laylee. Water and vodka mixed together, maybe a little essential oil, shake it up in a spray bottle. Takes away a lot of sins. Some places have laundromats on site, like Penzic. You could go off site and wash clothes if you needed to. You could buy new clothes at the merchant area. There's a huge sliding scale of economy there too. And then something to do. If you're going to fight, bring your armor. If you want to do some weaving or learn something, if you want to play music, bring your instrument, bring something to do. I have always packed a deck of cards. Every event I've ever been to that I can think of off the top of my head, I have packed a deck of cards. I literally never broken them out because I have never been so bored that I felt the need to play cards, but I have them just in case. It's the most boring thing ever. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of it goes from there. And what did I stick a pin in? I forgot. Dang, I was gonna make a solid point.
Mooch.
Food.
Being a mooch.
Mooch and food, yeah. Being that person who skulks around camp.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not exactly related to that. But the first thing that you should do if you're gonna go to a war, go to the damn website and read it. You would be amazed at the information you can find on the website to an event. Wars in particular, they'll tell you what the amenities are, what you can expect. Some places have a camp store. Some places don't. Some places don't have running water. The Battlemore site that we went to, which is not the site that they use anymore, but I mean, you had to bring your own shower stuff, or wet wipes. Fully pack wet wipes, you guys.
Estrella was almost as bad. There was very limited water in Estrella too.
Here's another thing too. If you need some resources, like if you need power for your CPAP, it's good to know if there's electrical outlets, or if there's a specific camp for special needs, or if there is disability services where you can go charge your scooter, or, what kind of terrain you can expect as far, like if you have mobility issues, things like that are important to know before you get there and are like, read the website. It'll tell you what the merchants are usually, if there's food, where the nearest hospital is, if you need to go to the emergency room. The fighting conventions of the kingdom you're going to be in, along with all the scenarios, which people never read. But like knowing whether you're going to be able to fight with your unpadded glaive, probably good to know before you get there.
She's talking about you, Lilies.
I am not just talking about lilies. I'm talking about random things. But, it's a font of all sorts of really useful information. And it can answer a lot of questions. Also, ask your friends. Ask people that have been there before. Hey, what's it like there? What is it, is there a water spigot nearby? Am I going to have to bathe with baby wipes the whole week? Should I plan? Is there shade? Is there blah, 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 whatever. Showers. Are there shower facilities? Solid question there. Totally. So do that first. Do your research ahead of time, and it will save you so much pain and misery. And pack your pillows and your towels.
And an extra wool blanket.
That was totally. I was waiting to the weather question for that one.
No, that's fair. So when I tried to lay out this outline, trying to cover everything you can possibly cover about every war is impossible to fit into 1.25 to 1.5 hours. So we left off. Even leaving off we normally do a myths and misconceptions section of the show where I poll people and get questions to ask that people never expected, or weird things about whatever the topic is. Instead, I've made a list of wars. I think I covered most of the wars that Meridian Mayhem went to, and we're gonna go through the list, and you guys tell me one or two things that is specific to that war that you would think a newcomer or somebody who's never been should know before going to that war.
Oh man, I started on this one early, didn't I?
You did. You can rehash it. That's fine. So
okay, order rates is gone. Sorry.
Turf wars.
Oh well, I'm in my order, not your order. Okay, turf wars. Are they still having that? Or do we have to RIP that one too?
It's still a thing. It's still a regional event.
I've only been to one turf wars, and we day tripped it.
I've been to a couple. It was lovely. Glenavon, also known for their hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
I need a better stirrer for my drink, though.
Girl, you caught without a swizzle stick?
Oh, right.
Apparently, she'd always pack a swizzle stick or a giant emery board.
This is a slap bracelet, I'll have you know.
Okay. Sorry.
Right.
It was long, stiff and flat. I thought it was a big emery board.
If you try hard enough.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes a really long time. But it puts that microfine finish. Anyway, it's better now. We're good. So, Lily. Oh, wait, Turf Wars. Sorry. We're talking about Turf Wars and Glenavon's hospitality, which is much better now that I stirred.
Which is apparently just still drinking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're very friendly, though, also.
Shade is an issue at Turf Wars, isn't it?
It depends on the site. I mean, it's in January, February. So, I find myself not caring as much. I mean, it is a good time since it is right then, if you're planning to go to Gulf Wars, it's a good time to, like, knock the rust off, make sure your authorization cards are still good, all that fun stuff. But I don't remember it being like a heavy, serious thing. Like, border raids was a ramp up for Penzic for the mid-realm as one of the principles of the war. I don't feel like there was ever that intensity to turf wars. But I mean, it could just be too that, we're all very laid back people. And sometimes you get lines.
Yeah.
Oh, y'all's list is not in chronological order.
What? Yeah.
My list is it.
It is. It's in order. It's in calendar order. Estrella.
But not from our calendar.
Right.
It's not on the SBA
my
calendar.
apologies. I wasn't privy to your calendar specifically.
On our website,
He's using the Gregorian calendar.
Oh my God. So anyway, where were we? I'm sorry, Estrella. Oh,
so needy.
R.I.P. Estrella. I'm needy. Jeez.
If Duke Alenon is packing your bedding, he's not going to give you enough blankets and you're going to freeze to death and you're going to put on every piece of clothing that you brought with you.
All at the same time. And then you're going to contemplate going next door to see if the person that you just met,
excuse me,
is warmer in their tent.
Snuggles?
But that would require getting out of bed, and that did not happen. So the Meridian Army mustered in bed that next day, still wearing every article of clothing they had collectively brought.
Slowly peeling them off.
Laylee's Wonder Woman hoodie was really the best part of it, because it wasn't the outermost layer.
That's funny. So extra clothes because deserts are cold at night.
Yes, turns out.
Also, Estrella was super dusty too. So, like, face masks, they were doing them before they were cool at Estrella War.
Yeah, instead of super gritty teeth. And that being said, I'm just gonna button hook around and talk about specific things to pack for weather, because we did fly to Estrella. Southwest, you get 2 50-pound check bags for free. I'm assuming they still do that. I'm assuming planes still fly in the sky. So that limits, if your armor is heavy, maybe made of metal, that does kind of limit your rolling golf bag, which was a fabulous thing to pack in. And I fit everything, including a shield and sword, except for my gorget and belt that had to go in the other 50-pound bag. So there wasn't a whole lot of room for coats or boots or anything like that. Always bring a blanket, preferably wool or a wool alpaca blend, which I highly recommend, because it will save your life potentially. And you can wear it as a cloak in a pinch if you need to. And that also could save your life. So, a nice blanket. That's good stuff. I don't think I brought a pillow. Elena was in charge of pillows. He did okay with that one. And after we told him that we were freezing to death, he brought 1,000 million things, and it was not cold again the rest of the war. So he did his hospitality.
Oh yeah, he brought enough. It would have been fine for him, but it was not fine for us.
It was still very nice. And then he went home and he day tripped in to win all the tourneys and go back home at night. So, but
he very graciously put us up and took good care of us.
Yes. So Australia is no more. It was still a fabulous event. Again, just getting to meet new people, see different things. As the Meridian Army was literally just the two of us. We fought with Aidenville one day. We fought with Outlands one day. That was fun, being able to just have kind of a non-committal, like, whatever, okay, cool. That was fun. We did skip their great court too. I don't have to elaborate on how I hate great courts.
As is right and proper.
It,
All right,
it's
so
great court's okay if you could tailgate it from camp. That's fine.
Definitely. Also, +1 battle more.
so what are the special things I need to know about Gulf Wars?
Mm,
I'm going to jump in here with pack something for every kind of weather you can think of.
yes.
Just do it.
Yes.
It's
Gonna be
good
And
for
my
every kind of weather.
standing advice to everyone all the time is have one outfit of regular mundane clothes, including shoes, that you put in a Ziploc bag and leave in your car. Just in case everything that you own gets ruined because of flooding or inclement weather that does whatever. That is
Just
all
in case there's a
having dry
microburst and all your shit
clothes,
goes away.
having dry clothes to be able to get in the car in makes a huge difference. A huge difference. Do be aware that it's in March, and while it feels cool leading up to it, it will always be hot at least some of the time. It will probably be cold. Sometimes it snows, sometimes it doesn't. Um, Lots of shoes. And this is like kind of a standard one too. Bring several comfortable pairs of shoes that fit differently because you're not going to be okay with just wearing one pair all week. It doesn't matter how awesome they are, your feet are going to get tired of them and you're going to want to swap. And especially if they get wet or muddy, it's nice to be able to like set them to the side and let them dry and wear something else. It is pretty flat. Everything's pretty well laid out. It is probably a good idea. This is my solid Penzic rule, but even for Gulf Wars, when you get the site book, take a picture of the map. Or if you don't want to carry your phone with you because that's an affront to your medieval sensibilities, pull the map out of the center of it and put it in your pouch, just in case you need to figure out where something is on the fly. Or you can't find your way home and it's the middle of the night because you have no natural sense of direction. That'd be my friend Amina. Love you. She has been to Gulf Wars several times also, and still no sense of direction. There is all the things to do. Look at the website, read about all the merchants, read about all the activities, classes, war stuff, fighting. If you're going to fight in a ravine, make sure you got good ankle support. Watch out for arrows on the ground. Go to early period life. The long haul is pretty much the best thing ever in the whole wide world. What else?
Can we move on to Fool's War?
Let's move on to Fool's War.
Fool's War.
Yay! Fool's War is awesome. You should all come. It is a smaller weekend event. The site will dictate a lot of what I would warn you about. Generally speaking, there are fire ants also. We use a different site now. It's not as bad. Generally, it is warmer there. There's usually a revel on Saturday night for everybody. So, if that's something that you're interested in, that is usually a feature, not a bug. What else would I tell people about Fool's War? I mean, like I said, there's a lot of everything. It is one of the few events in the kingdom that consistently has horses. So if you're interested in equestrian, that's a great one to go to. That or Castle Wars. Oh yeah, a thing to know about Gulf Wars is you can't authorize there. I'm not sure about equestrian, but I know you can't authorize to fight there. So make sure you got your stuff sorted out before you go. But they have horses at whatever. They have horses at Gulf Wars too, in case you hadn't heard. But there's a lot more time for interactive stuff, for beginner things, for doing the ground crew stuff, blah blah blah, etc. There's not a whole lot that happens. Like Friday is usually kind of more an open day. So if you show up early on Friday, you can just kind of like do whatever. And there's really good Indian restaurants in town. So,
There are.
that's also a perk.
There are good Indian restaurants and Mediterranean restaurants in town. Sorry. So I have double wars listed here, but that's the big war in Drakenwald, which happens at Raglan Castle, I believe. But by request, I've replaced it with, which is out of chronological order. I've replaced it with Panhandle skirmishes.
Only because I couldn't talk about Double Wars. And I felt a little bit better. And once I found out it was in Drakenwald, I was like, I don't even know what that is.
Drakenwald's the kingdom and that encompasses Europe.
Shush. You don't get to lecture me. You're just the host. Mind your hospitality.
Panhandle skirmishes. Your dameship.
Panhandle's rad. I mean, you get to hang out with Trimerians, do some fighting. It's usually a fun time. They're a very hospitable, very fun kingdom. There's usually lots to get up to.
Maisie will probably bring some young men who are down for shenanigans that you can possibly
easily suggestible.
Accidentally feed a little too much booze to, and
I warned them ahead of time. That's not my fault. Nah, that one's not my fault.
Don't get Maisie's boys in trouble, or do.
Definitely do.
Border raids, RIP. We already did that one though.
Yes.
So.
Well, in that case, War of the Lilies.
Yay, lilies!
And you covered a lot of that too, but
yeah, yay for Draka.
Yeah, it's gonna be hot.
Fireworks, hospitality, Satan's asshole hot. Check.
Battlemore.
Hospitality again though.
Anything specific you would say for Battlemore?
Read your website.
Yeah.
Like I said, the new site I haven't been to. Honestly, only been to the one Battlemore, but it was really awesome. But do be specifically aware that apparently here in the South, we take water for granted.
And fire. We take fire for granted,
and
too.
Fire, yeah. So on the way to the event, we stopped at a rest area on the side of the highway. Looked just like a regular rest area. Only when you went into the stall, the toilets were all pit toilets. And the sink area had hand sanitizer. Because they don't have enough water to just waste it on bathrooms. So that was kind of interesting. It kind of made me feel bad because I totally take water for granted. And when we were there, everyone had like the little tiny propane stove things for their campfires because there's a huge risk of forest fires there. The air is very dry. And so, yeah, you don't get a lot of the big bonfire areas and stuff like that. So, I mean, things like that are always good to know.
Also, if you're not used to elevation changes, like that is something to pay attention to at some of these sites, especially out, west. So like, just you might not be able to fight as much as you normally do, and don't keep pushing it. Sit down.
And drink water, like ridiculously drink water.
Because it's super dry.
Like every other drink has to be water for real, because otherwise you will get sick.
All right, so we're running probably 10 minutes behind schedule. You guys okay with running 10 minutes late?
Are you okay with it? I got
All
nowhere to be.
So Pinzik. Or Pinzix, whichever.
No, just one.
I just hear it pronounced that way differently.
They're wrong. I'm just saying. It's Pinzik War. Pinzik is not like anything else. And I mean, like, yes, obviously all of these wars are individual sweet baby children's on their own, but everybody should go to Penzic once just to have experienced it. It's on a scale that you can't really explain. Even looking at pictures, it still doesn't cover the scope of it. And you can see people from every time period. You can see people of no time period. What is it often said that it's like SCA Con? There are people wearing elf ears or fairy wings or whatever. But a lot of that is separated more. And I mean, if you're not into it, you're not into it. If you are into it, fine. If you can just see everything, you can do everything, you can shop for everything. You can see people that you would never see otherwise. You can run into them at Penzic. And our camp in particular is a home of my heart, and I love it so much. And it is, it's very serious, Iron Age Celt, anything that's not period hidden away. And literally across the street from our camp is a pirate ship, and they have a glow stick fight with fairies every year. And you know what? That's okay too. The fighting is, again, just the scope of the battles is something that's hard to explain. They use a lot of siege engines, ballista, things like that don't really, I mean, they have them some at Gulf Wars and other things, but there are enough of them that it's actually more of a strategic thing. And the field is big, so you can kind of see the whole thing going down as it's happening. And it's cool. It's its own thing. And a lot of people either love it or hate it. I love it.
Great Western War.
You're not even going to talk about Penzic.
Oh, no, these questions are for you, mostly.
You can answer too.
I mean, I mean, you pretty much covered it, right? Like, Penzic is its own thing. It's very different. It's very different from other events. And I will say, depending on what you do at Penzic, can be whatever you want it to be. Like, it can be a super authentic, very medieval kind of enchanted event. It could be like very formal SCA, or it could be just total party event. I mean, there's something for everyone at Penzic. There's a little bit of everything. And then Peace Week is way different than War Week. Yeah. And I will say there's also something super magical about getting there like day one and watching the whole thing get built and then watching the whole thing get torn down. And I've been able to help like break down after everybody leaves a couple of years. And that's really fascinating too, to see it basically return to a field from being a full town. So it's really cool. Okay, now Great Western War.
Great Western War.
Right quick. Karen Hatton, I don't know who this is, has two words for you, and that's to Chuck.
Well, it's really just one word. Thanks, Mom. I love you. Yes, Penzic is known for the two Chucks, which is a group of people who are SCA adjacent, kind of. Like, they have their own fighting conventions. It's full contact. They do, what is it? What's the guy in the stories? Anyway, whatever. It's what? What is it?
No, I don't think it's Guar.
It's not Guar.
No.
Anyway,
I always call them Guar reenactors.
No.
Anyway, I mean, it's a very like barbarian kind of.
Yeah.
God love us. They call their women wenches. It was just kind of horrifying, but whatever. That's a different story.
That's a different story.
they come en masse to Pensick. So that is actually, a significant fighting force there. They have their own camp. They have their own rules in their own camp. It's not something that you really see a lot of anywhere else. That being said, they do have a charity tourney that they run every year too, that raises a lot of money. It is fighting by their conventions, which again, I'd like to reiterate, it's full contact, wrestling and throwing people and stuff like that, which horrifies a lot of people and I find to be kind of delightful as a whole separate thing, but whatever. But yeah, thanks, Mom. Appreciate that. Pointing out the 2 checks. It is an interesting thing, and it is usually more Pensick specific than anything else.
Well, I'm from Glenry, and I love a spectacle, so I had to bring that up.
Spectacle, yes. Especially from a distance.
Yes.
Now, the 3rd time Lily's tried to get us to this subject, we'll try it.
Great Western War!
Woo! Great Western War is awesome. For most Meridians, it will be, other than Double Wars, which again, I didn't even count, is probably the farthest one away that you would go to, because it's outside of Bakersfield, California. That being said, it's lovely. You would probably have to fly there. It's the weather can be, despite the fact it's in October, it is comparably hot, like it can be here too. I think the year that we went together, it was 95 degrees on Saturday. It was miserable. Again, not a fan of the heat. But again, it's just interesting to see different kingdoms' cultures. Kaid has a lot of Landsknecht and a lot of later period German personas. So you get to see a lot of that. They're big giant hats with all the feathers and their fancy underwear. And it's just really kind of awesome. And, same as with everywhere, you meet people there. Several Meridians who used to live here live there now. So it's like old home week. You get to see old friends. West Coast Ismay, West Coast Malachi, and just get to see people that you wouldn't otherwise get to see, and hang out. And again, this is one of the few times where they get to camp for the weekend. And so it's more special to them, which is awesome. The fighting is usually, it's good. It's good. It's a lot of Kaid's traditions are more similar to Meridian. So you get a lot of things that feel more familiar. Not necessarily the fighting conventions, because they do get from behind, which is...
We used to do that.
Well, again...
Vigo couldn't take it anymore, so we stopped.
Read the website. Know what your fighting conventions are before you start. Also, the site that they used the year that we went had a gopher problem. That's not something I really thought about having to deal with. But there were gopher holes all over site. And as someone who was nursing an ankle injury, that was tricky.
There was a whole team with buckets and shovels to fill in the gopher holes. And then if they couldn't fill them in, they would drop glow sticks down in them so that you could
warn you until they could get back to take care of it.
Which was awesome.
Yeah. So that was kind of fun and also treacherous. But again, it's just something different. But yeah, and it's usually up against their coronation. So a lot of times it's hard to do both. But they are having Great Western War this year. So if you're just jonesing for a war and you just got to go, it's like next weekend? No, weekend after next.
Weekend after next, the 2nd through the 10th.
Get on it. If you're just dying to go and you don't know anybody, message me. I'll hook you up with some people. It'll be fun.
I was literally like this close to going this year.
I mean,
this close. It's just too much
super
stuff.
fun. It's in the
I'm
world.
going to try and go next year.
Yes, it's super awesome.
All right, so this qualifies as a war. So Gatalop.
Well, totally counts. Where else are you going to get to fight in a fort? I mean, it's okay. So it's technically maybe not exactly like a whole war, but it's the one that looks and feels most like a real medieval war. That being said, Barony of Osprey, a veritable font of hospitality, including my precious Snickerdoodle, who is the autocrat of this coming Gatalop / coronation. So fighting in the fort, on the fort, around the fort, like I said, it's not really an experience you're going to get anywhere else around here. It's pretty laid back. There's always a fun time. If you're camping, the wind is terrible. Just know that ahead of time. Bring extra long stakes for your tent. Bring extra guy lines. Like, just be prepared for it to be, because it's on like the end of the island, and the wind, like, it's bad. The wind is bad there.
It's practically in the ocean.
It's practically in the ocean and desperately wants to become so pretty much all the time. But that being said, I mean, the showers are off-site. They're at the RV campground nearby. You can buy little tickets to go shower and stuff like that. But they do have restroom facilities in the fort. Also, good to know, it is open to the public during the day. So if you're camping in any of the fort rooms, basically, know that the public is welcome to walk through your space all day, and you have to kind of like tidy it up and, make it presentable. And there's usually a rockin' party at night. Any number of wild times could be had. Generally, it's awesome. And it's usually Halloween, so trick-or-treating for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got anything to add? Right quick before you get to War of the Wings, sorry.
No, she covered
Victoria Salisbury wanted to point out that Great Western War, because we were telling people to go. Great Western War required pre-registration this year, so
my apologies. I was wrong. You should totally go next year if you weren't already planning to go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is a good time.
All right, now go, Erik.
War of the Wings.
Yay, War of the Wings. So funny story. That's usually the weekend right after Great Western War. It is literally on the other side of the country. What was it? 3,000 miles away?
4,000. I read over everything again today. So we were at Great Western War on the West Coast one weekend. Then we went to War of the Wings on the East Coast, 4,000 miles away, 95 degrees, 32 degrees. And then the following weekend, we went to Panhandle skirmishes in Florida.
Yeah, that was kind of a lot. I think that was like the biggest turnaround one. Good news was she didn't have to like wash the dirty clothes, really. You just like dump the bag out, pack all the other stuff.
That's true.
That being said, like, War of the Wings was also better. I mean, I hate to say better than expected, because it implies that we were expecting to not have a great time, but it exceeded expectations. Yes. And now a lot of that too was the people that we were camping with, and oh yeah, my sister got to come that year.
She did.
They were very gracious, very good hosts, hospitality, hospitable. Yeah. Whatever.
I drank all mine.
So you needed a backup. What kind of pelican are you?
32 ounces.
I don't know, because this one's new. This is my Feed the Ravens mug, and this is my Yay Fire Horse Battery mug. The two largest ones that I own.
But yeah, no, Atlanteism is a lot of fun. War of the Wings is really a good time.
And the fighting was more fun than I had expected it to be.
Same. Yeah.
It was
really fun.
you hear rumors about aliens, blah, blah, blah. But they went out of their way to make sure that we were comfortable, to the point of wanting to announce to everyone that there were meridians there and everyone watched their calibration, which we begged them, please don't do that, because that's horrible. But no, I mean, everyone was delightful, and we had a very good time.
And Elizabeth and Yanka and I fought together, and at one point there may have been a group of people who thought that we were youth fighters until we engaged.
Well, and that being said, the person who said that got sent out to see what was up and promptly got thrashed, much to everyone's delight.
Yes.
Because they totally set him up.
Yeah, he loves to tell that story.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, you should. That's just a trap. That's what we call a trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, Castle Wars.
Is that really all of them? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we just went right through them. What was it, Castle Wars? Castle Wars is awesome. It's like Fool's War, only I don't have to work.
That counts. That's a big difference.
I mean, for me it is, yeah. And there are a lot of similarities between Fool's War and Castle Wars, especially because often they're at the same site, or they used to be in particular. Did you have fruit on your swizzle stick?
Have you met?
It's a letter opener, but yes.
Oh, okay. I was going to put gummy worms on mine and I ran out of time. Anywho, fancy cocktail cherries. Check, check. That's what you get when you buy a giant can of them. Castle Wars.
Castle Wars.
The main difference between them, and I've already alluded to that, is the weather. Castle Wars can be very, very cold. You're just doing it because I can't actually bite you from there. All right, it's fine. I have a good memory too. Castle Wars can be very cold, especially if it's at the site where I think it's supposed to be this year, maybe. Just be aware, bring lots of layers. Bring that blanket that you're going to wear as a cloak in an emergency, because it can be like legit cold, not like south cold, like 16 degrees outside. Cold.
In the low 20s.
Yeah.
We've had nights at recent Castle Wars where it was, in the teens.
Yeah. Which is not what we collectively expect. Yeah. But again, they have a little bit of everything. It's a good event. It's a good kind of a little bit of everything, pretty local. Even when it's not down here near me, it's in the Atlanta area. So it's kind of central to the kingdom. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So we're going to skip through the myths and misconceptions, because we did all the wars in that spot, which I think was pretty cool. So we're going to go right to last chance. Is there anything that you want to cover that we haven't covered? Anything that you think we've missed? Either of you?
I miss you guys.
I miss you
both
too.
You guys.
Flying to events. I mean, I know Elizabeth touched on this some, but you can do it if you can get a Southwest ticket reasonably. That's the easiest and cheapest way to do it, because they let you check your stuff. If you, like Elizabeth, use a golf bag, they will check your luggage every single time, because
4 for 4, baby.
Because your helmet rolls down to the end and looks vaguely like a body. If you instead use a rolling duffel bag, they will check your luggage approximately 3 out of 4 times, anecdotally. But yeah, I mean, you can do it. It's not that bad, but you absolutely have to plan ahead. Find a host if you at all can. If you can't find a host, find a Walmart nearby. You can go buy super cheap tent and inflatable mattress or pool floaty or whatever that will last you a few days. And styrofoam coolers and, find someone to give them away to when you're done.
Well, and that's the thing too. There are usually, like, Paladin's Pantry collects up, donated food at the end of wars. And I don't know if it's them or if it's another group of people who will go through and collect up, things that people left behind, propane tanks, whatever. So there is, a group in place that you can donate the stuff to, where it gets used for, I think, homeless outreach in particular.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like you're just throwing stuff in a dumpster at the end.
Yeah.
But and that was always our backup plan, and we never had to go with it.
It was, yeah. Yeah, you will be amazed at the kind of hospitality people will show you if you just ask ahead of time.
Even if they're strangers. In fact, well, when we went to 50th year, at the very end of our tour, a friend of mine reached out to me and said, "Hey, I met this guy on the Known World Shiv list. He lives in New Zealand. And the group that he was planning on going to 50th year with isn't going now. Can he hang out with you guys?" And we're like, "Sure." Total stranger. Complete and total stranger. Turns out he was utterly delightful. And we had the best time. So you never know when you're going to meet some really cool people.
Yeah. True.
All right, Eric, you're up.
Where am I? Okay, shout outs. We did that.
There you go. No, shout out. This is shout outs.
Oh, any shout outs? Any other shows to watch? Any people doing good things in the kingdom that you'd like to point out?
Okay, so true story. I don't watch Zoom anything, so I'm sure everyone's doing lovely work on the internet, but I mean, I could tell you about that. I'm watching Avatar: The Last Airbender with my mom. That's super fun. No, but as far as like actual shout outs, like, she likes it too. It's super awesome.
I just have a mental picture of your mom watching Last Airbender. I think it's great.
She totally loves it. As well she should, because it's awesome. I'd like to give a shout out to all the healthcare workers.
Yeah.
It's a hard time. It's absolutely a hard time right now. And you're doing the hard work and trying your best. And I see you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
You got anything, Lily?
No, I think that covers it.
So I'll keep mine slightly SCA oriented. I throw out the Coach's Corner every week. I'm going to do that this week. They've just started a new series on Kingdom heroes and traditions. Duke Elanon's pushing this one with the rest of their co-hosts, with Branos and Sean and Tristan and a few of the others. But they're going through each kingdom I believe in kingdom order. And they're covering their heroes, and there's some traditions and getting to know those kingdoms. And I think that's, if you love interkingdom anthropology, I think that's a big, a good thing to go watch and check out.
It does sound pretty cool.
And locally, I want to throw some love to Baroness Rondalyn Sarin, who's the MGT deputy this year and getting an MGT ready to go in a pandemic. Next week, come out, see us. She's doing awesome work, and I just want to give her a big thank you ahead of time, because we won't do a show for a little bit. And that brings me into the thank yous. I'd like to thank our guest, Dame Elizabeth, my special surprise co-host, Baroness Lely, for joining us. Thank you both for being here. It's been fantastic, lovely to spend an hour and a half with the both of you. Yeah. Of course, thanks to our crew, Jessica, Adriana, Katerina, who ran the show tonight and did the horizontal and the vertical, and of course Kikuchi, Margaret, and most importantly you the audience. And we didn't do an Eric's hot take for anything tonight.
I know, and I was gonna too.
Do you have an Eric's hot take?
Do it.
I didn't.
It's on the screen. You're on the spot.
Hot take. Don't be a douchebag. That's my.
Yay!
That's a good one. Bring your own food. Bring a freaking towel to your event.
Right. Hey, here's a hot take. In the spirit of Elizabeth, our queen of hospitality, you know a good way to make friends? Stop at the liquor store.
Yes.
That's a good way to make friends. We shall never discuss. We never added up how much money was spent on booze on this year-long venture. But
We made a lot of friends, though.
Hospitality
booze at wars
makes
don't have
friends.
calories either. Just for the record, booze at events is 0 calorie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, it's nice to bring something non-alcoholic too, so that you have, some mixers and/or something to share with people who don't drink.
I was about to say,
I'm working on my non-alcoholic cocktails.
And if your friends are supplying the booze, and you're like, don't bring anything, I've got you covered. Bring some mixers for them.
Yes.
Or a snack.
Or a snack.
It's fun to share snacks too.
Or some towels or some paper towels or something to clean up with.
Oh,
There's going to be some spillage.
And then your hands get sticky.
And your hands get sticky.
No.
That's the thing.
We're still talking about booze, right?
Yeah, actually we are.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
All right. Eric.
All right, Hound and Stag will be back next month with your first ANS. It's not a competition with the one and only Mistress Serafina. All shows 6 p.m. Central Standard Times, 7 p.m. Eastern.
So if you're watching the replay on YouTube, then down here in this corner, there we go, down here in this corner, we need you to smack that like button, hit the subscribe, maybe smash that bell to keep the notifications. If we can get to 100 subscribers, we'll have a cool name on our YouTube channel instead of a bunch of numbers. If you're watching on Facebook, up here, like and follow. Get that algorithm, get us out there so people can see us.
And finally, if you're watching live, give us about 5 minutes for a break, and then feel free to join us on the Zoom for the after show where we'll answer your questions about MGT. No. And maybe tell some stories
about answer questions about MGT.
About how things have changed over the years. I feel like that was from last week.
It was.
Bad editing.
It was me.
Watch the live feed comments on Facebook for the link. We'll hang out and chat for about half an hour after the show. Graf and Katarina will post it now-ish.
All right. Right quick before we go, we have merch. Go to hound-and-stag.com. Buy the cool merch that pays for this StreamYard and mics and stuff for us so that we can actually at least look somewhat professional. All right. That's it, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate all of you being here. We'll see y'all next month.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
And if I die in battle, tomorrow I'll be home, though it's 70 days march to there from Rome. But a soul travels swiftly on the night wind, and if I die in battle, I'll be home again.